I have no idea even what the first note will be or what key it'll be in. Nothing. There's zero, nothing.
I'm Jolt Bognar, and this is Living the Creative Life. Our guest today is Gabriela Montero. Gabby, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. I'm such a fan of what you've been doing all these years. It's really beautiful.
So you've just been improvising for us, and I, on behalf of many of our viewers, wouldn't want to stop you. However, I'm sure we are all curious about your life story and how you've come to your diverse art. So last night we heard this incredible performance that you gave at the 92nd Street Y, and this was a program of composers who, in some way or other, were immigrants.
Yes.
What was this concept, and what did it mean to you?
Well, in the last 12 years, most of what I've done artistically has somehow revolved around the theme of Venezuela and the loss of Venezuela. And this program I devised because I wanted to be able to bring to attention not only the subject of immigration that is so topical, right now for all of us, but also to be able to speak of the 7.5 million Venezuelans who have fled, basically, Venezuela. So I chose Rachmaninoff, Prokofiev, and Stravinsky as three composers who either migrated to the West or spent time in the West. And then the second part of the concert, I completely improvise the score to Chaplin's film, The Immigrant, because it's a beautiful way in the visual art form of cinema to bring this, the whole feeling of despair, of excitement, of expectation, of challenges, of joy, of sorrow, that being an immigrant is. I react to the storyline, to the characters, to the moods. I have no idea even what the first note will be or what key it'll be in. Nothing. There's zero, nothing.
This element of chance, doesn't that feel a little bit risky?
For me, it's freedom, absolute freedom. With improvisation, it's a world where there are no boundaries, where there are no rules, there's no judgment. It's an entirely liberating experience, and also where I am 100% connected emotionally.
So just now, when you sat down and improvised for us, I heard at least 5 or 6 different styles. How do you even, are you deciding which style?
No.
Just something occurs to you?
Not at
Do you
all.
hear it first?
No, I don't hear anything. I feel it. I watch it develop. It's like I become that. But it's not me who's driving it, even though it is, but I'm not conscious. And something I like to say, which often shocks people, is that I never studied harmony or theory or solfege or anything. So, and I like to say that because for me it comes from a place that is beyond, let's say, the intellectual process. It's something else, it's nature. And in my case, it manifests through improvisation. So it's something entirely, I don't know, like a language. I always improvised. Then I basically stopped improvising in public from the age of about 8 until my 20s because I had a teacher who told me not to. So it was just my private thing. And then I played for Martha when I was 31, and that changed everything.
Playing for Martha changing everything. I would imagine that any encounter with Martha would be a game changer.
She's been an angel, basically, in so many ways. Just playing with her, I feel that when you're so close and also performing something that is such an intimate act, to make music together with someone who somehow spreads magic dust everywhere she goes. That kind of propels you to another level yourself. I don't know exactly how it happens, but there's a growth and there's a transformation. And for me, her support of what I do and also my improvisation was key to continuing to perform and to want to continue to perform.
Have you performed together with her?
Yes, many times.
What was that like?
Oh wow! It's like a TGV train on speed with it's just incredible journey of in so many ways. I mean, it's so real. It's so humorous. It's so raw. It's so connected to life, and it's such an organic way of feeling music and playing music. And she's just. Of course, she's just Martha. She's a character. She's lovable, everything.
Gabby, you mentioned finding a sense of liberation when you're improvising. Is there a way that you can bring that same sense of freedom when you're playing, say, a Beethoven sonata?
Well, my challenge has always been to be as authentic, let's say, when I'm playing somebody else's music, as I am when I improvise, because it's something so personal, and I'm connected to music in a absolutely natural way. I think the idea that playing somebody else's music and having a score, it somehow inhibits that sense of communicating through the score. You're sometimes more concerned about the version that you want to create, and it really should be about the storytelling, you know. But then at the same time, I'm allowing my hands and my mind to just create as I go along within the framework of a Beethoven sonata or Rachmaninoff.
How do audiences react when they learn that your program will have an improvisation on it? Do they think that this is unique? Do they think that you're an outlier for doing this?
They're excited, they're happy, they feel like they're witnessing something that is very much, you know, like the 18th, 19th century artists, and something unique that happens and just fades after that time. It doesn't exist anymore.
So you mentioned humor and you mentioned life.
Yeah.
If we connect these two together, I'm wondering, with your improvisations, what the audience reaction is. I'm going to guess that they have a lot of fun.
They do,
I know that one thing you did was you played the Schumann Concerto in Nashville, and then you asked the audience to sing something off of which you would improvise. Is that another way to connect with the audience?
It's wonderful to ask the public, because then you involve the public. They become a part of that gestation, let's say, of a theme that becomes something unknown. And I love that. I love the reactions. Very often they'll start laughing in unison because they hear their favorite pop song become a fugue, and it's just completely irreverent and pretty funny. So there are many things that happen during
Is that something that you can actually do? Bring a fugue into an improvisation?
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't that intellectually so demanding to keep track of everything? Okay, so I'm thinking of the Chaplin accompaniment that you did yesterday. There was a lot of counterpoint in some of these things. I don't understand how someone could play this and not have had practiced it for weeks. Is there any element that becomes idiomatic to you? Is there any syntax that becomes a familiar mode of expression, where you have some favorite ways to do some harmonies, you have some favorite figurations?
There must be maybe a basis of that somewhere in my improvisation, but if you listen to my improvisations, you'll hear that it's never the same. It's always different. And I never purposely, I wouldn't be able to purposely introduce something in improvisation because I'm not there. So it's a very strange mixture of being conscious and at the same time not.
So you also compose.
Yes.
And I'm listening to what you said earlier, that you don't have knowledge of solfege and harmony. So what does that process look like? Is that much more difficult for you to write down, for example, your piano concerto? What was the process?
It's mad. It's completely mad, and it's fast, and it's urgent, very much like the improvisation process. It's very fluid. Basically, I have, a Clavinova connected to the software, and I have someone who assists me with all of the software and the technical world, which I will never learn how to do. And I basically improvise large chunks of whatever it is I'm composing. And then I have, of course, the benefit of editing, of keeping things, discarding them. But it's very much it's not a slow process. It's something that just kind of gushes and happens. And yeah.
Gabby, pivoting back to what we heard at your concert with regards to your saying so beautifully that you are telling your message best through music, you've also been outspoken about your country. What does it mean to you to be Venezuelan today?
It means having lost everything, having lost your country, having lost the possibility of living there, of returning there, and to be connected to all of that pain for over a decade has been really, really hard for me and for my family, actually. And I also came face to face, let's say, with a side of myself that I didn't know I had, you know, the warrior. And I became that warrior because I care and because this terrible tragedy happened to my country and it happened to my people and happened to my family and to my friends. I felt that I couldn't just continue my life and my career as though nothing was happening at home. And I was so much in contact with all of that pain and all of those people who have suffered so much having lost everything that it just changed my life. It changed how I made music. It changed why I made music. And I reacted. You know, people will sometimes say that I'm an activist, and I don't see myself as an activist. I'm a reactivist. And this happened in my time, and I felt I needed to use my voice.
Do you still have family there?
Yes, my father's there, and I haven't seen him in 9 years, and I'll never see him again. And this is it's just part of the cost that you live with as a Venezuelan. And I'm not the only one who's experiencing this kind of terrible, terrible loss, you know.
Gabriela, I wanted to ask you about the meaningful change that we can make in the world beyond just feeling the tragedy and hoping for change. I don't want to be opportunistic in making an example of what I know that you have done with your generosity and wanting to take action, but I would like to make an example to others who might consider doing something similar. That's why I bring it up. Tell me about Luis.
Well, you know, Luis is a very, very special person in our lives. He started to write to me on Facebook, I think about 6 years ago or so. And basically just saying, you know, I can't stay here. I have a voice. You know, I'm in a terrible situation, like so many Venezuelans. And can you please help? And he sent a video, and his voice was so exceptional, and his drive and his willpower so touching that within just a couple of weeks, we were able to take him out of Venezuela, meet him at the airport in Barcelona, and bring him home to us. We met at the airport. And it's a long story full of very touching details. But to sum it up, he just got married to his darling, Diana, who lived with us for about 3.5 years. And he's now singing at the Zurich Opera. He has a lifetime contract.
I know that the situation is constantly changing.
Yes.
But if someone else wanted to help in a similar way, would that currently be possible to make some type of difference?
Yes, of
in
course.
Action?
Of course. And we always encourage people to help individuals, to you know, identify individuals who really, you know, want to leave, need to leave, and do whatever you can to help them.
Do you consider yourself a hopeful person?
Hopeful person. I think I'm quite optimistic in many ways. I believe in people. I believe in the goodness of people, even though sometimes I feel like that belief is put to the test, and that's difficult.
When you were on stage yesterday, you were exuding such an uncaged joy.
Yeah.
Does it feel difficult to be that joyful when this is the constant backdrop of your life?
For 12 years, since 2010, until very recently, I felt I had no right to be happy, to be joyous, to celebrate, and I didn't. I deprived myself and my kids and my family and my husband from that part of me, the joyous Gabby, the humorous Gabby. And I just felt it was not right to somehow feel human and feel whole when so many didn't. And it's taken me over a decade to finally understand that as much as I did and as much as I gave to somehow try and prevent what happened in Venezuela, it still happened. It takes so much more than one person to be able to have an effect. And I feel that I'm starting to reconnect to my joy, because it's also a matter of surviving. You know, I need that for my soul. Yeah.
Speaking of joy,
Yeah.
how did you meet your husband, Sam?
Well, I met Sam in 2010. Actually, he was present in my last concert with Dudamel in LA in 2010. And the next day, I went to have a coffee with Dudamel's wife, who was my friend. And Sam had just walked into a Starbucks in the middle of LA. And I walked in 5 minutes later. He recognized me and he approached me. And then that was the beginning of all of this. Yeah. And he's been incredible. And I feel sorry for him sometimes, because we met. And then I dove straight into this, you know, very difficult time and fight. Yeah.
If I had to ask you to make a short musical portrait, I'm going to put you on the spot here. A short musical portrait of Sam right now, what would that look like? For our viewers, he is in the room.
So Sam, well, people have to know he's a baritone and he's Irish. And he's kind of from another time in a way. So let's see. I can never keep it short.
Could you make a musical portrait about your father? For me as a listener who never met him, and not necessarily about the fact that you can't see him anymore, could you describe to me through your music who your father is?
Right now, all I can describe is the feeling of loss, and of not seeing him. And even though he drives me crazy, but just I'll improvise on not being able to see him. And this, I think, encapsulates a general feeling for Venezuelans.
I know that that's a tall ask for me, but I'm doing that because your soul comes through the music, and I think it ties into what we witnessed last night through the Charlie Chaplin film. But what's mesmerizing for me right now, leading this conversation, is something is taking shape before my eyes. So I thank you for considering giving me a little bit of an insight into what that feels like. Thank you. If someone were to come to you after your performance and describe to you that they similarly had a circumstance which was painful and that could never be changed, what would you tell them?
I tell them to lean on the people around them and the support and the love that they receive. I think also a wonderful way of healing is by giving back as much as you can, and always connecting to the best of who we are and to that human kindness that I was talking about, which is ever present. And somehow never forgetting that there are many people like that in the world who really aspire to do good and to just connect to that and find the energy through that as well.
Gabby, thank you so much for bringing us hope and healing through everything that you shared with us here and through your music. And I wish you bright days ahead with everything that you do and to be surrounded by the people you mentioned.
Thank you so much.
You too.
You too.